The Muromachi period was a time when Japan was ruled mainly by the Muromachi Shogunate. The early years, when the imperial court was split into two factions, are known as the Nanboku-chō period. The final years, marked by power struggles and upheavals driven by the rise of the strong over the weak, Gikoku-jo, are called the Sengoku period. During this era, the concept of Wabi-Sabi, influenced by Zen Buddhism, emerged. This aesthetic sense of imperfection and transience became a fundamental part of Japanese culture and artistic expression. After the fall of the Kamakura Shogunate, the late Kamakura period, the imperial family was already divided into two factions, the Daikakuji line, which later became the Southern Court, and the Jimyoen line, which later became the Northern Court. The Kamakura Shogunate had maintained stability by mediating between the two factions, implementing an alternating succession policy for the imperial throne. However, in 1333, Emperor Go-Daigo of the Daikakuji line successfully overthrew the Kamakura Shogunate, seeking to establish a direct imperial rule. He dismissed Emperor Kogon, who had been installed by the shogunate, and abolished the regency and chancellorship systems, consolidating power solely under the emperor. However, the samurai class, which had played a crucial role in the overthrow of the shogunate, had done so primarily in pursuit of land and political status, rather than out of loyalty to the emperor's ideals. Additionally, the rewards distributed to those who fought against the shogunate were unequal, leading to dissatisfaction among the warriors. This discontent eventually led Ashikaga Takauji, one of the key military leaders, to seize control of Kyoto and force Emperor Go-Daigo to surrender. Nanboku-cho period and Kitayama culture. Initially, Go-Daigo appeared to submit to Takauji, surrendering the three imperial regalia, symbols of imperial legitimacy. Takauji then established the Northern Court in Kyoto, placing Emperor Komyo, a member of the Jimyoen line, on the throne. However, Go-Daigo later escaped to Yoshino, in present-day Nara Prefecture, claiming that the regalia he had handed over were fake, and established the Southern Court to be the true imperial lineage. Unlike the Kamakura shogunate, the Ashikaga government lacked a strong, centralized military structure. To secure the loyalty of Shugo, military governors, Takauji granted them extensive local authority, creating what would later be known as Shugo daimyo, warlord governors. The Nanboku-chō period was marked by ongoing conflicts between the northern and southern courts, with different factions aligning with either side based on their interests. The one who finally ended this division was Ashikaga Yoshimitsu, the third shogun, in 1369. He gradually weakened powerful Shugo daimyo through political maneuvering and military action. Meanwhile, key figures of the southern court passed away, causing their power to decline. In 1392, Yoshimitsu brokered a peace agreement under which the imperial succession would alternate between the Daikakuji and Jimyoen lines. Emperor Go-Kameyama of the southern court abdicated, and Emperor Go-Komatsu of the northern court became the 100th emperor of Japan, officially ending the Nanboku-chō period. The cultural developments of this period are known as Kitayama culture. Named after Yoshimitsu's mountain villa in Kyoto, Kitayama culture blended the elegant traditions of the aristocracy with the emerging warrior class aesthetics. The most famous example is Kinkaku-ji, Golden Pavilion, which remains one of Japan's top tourist attractions today. In the performing arts, No theater, which is now recognized as a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage, flourished. Additionally, ink wash painting, sumi-e, introduced from China alongside Zen Buddhism, became highly influential in the visual arts. The Muromachi Shogunate. Having been trained in the principles of statecraft from a young age, Yoshimitsu grew into an exceptional politician. He effectively centralized power, making the shogunate the dominant authority in Japan. In 1394, he officially handed over the shogunate title to his 9-year-old son, Ashikaga Yoshimochi, but continued to rule behind the scenes. He even began acting like an emperor, conducting imperial ceremonies and styling himself akin to a monarch. In 1401, he sought the title of King of Japan from Ming China, essentially becoming a vassal of the Ming dynasty in exchange for trade rights. This move, done without the Japanese imperial court's approval, was highly controversial. However, the trade between Japan and Ming began in 1404 and brought in enormous profits. Some believe Yoshimitsu was even planning to have his second son, Yoshitsugu, ascend the throne and overthrow the imperial family. In 1408, he held Yoshitsugu's coming-of-age ceremony as if it were a crown prince's investiture. However, mysteriously, just 3 days later, Yoshimitsu suddenly fell ill and died. After his death, Yoshimochi reversed many of his father's policies, cutting ties with Ming China in 1411 and prioritizing Japan's independence from foreign rule. Although he once handed over the position of shogun to his son, Yoshikazu, Yoshikazu died suddenly 2 years later, and Yoshimochi continued to run the government while retaining actual power. Decline of the shogunate and Higashiyama culture. In 1428, Japan experienced its first large-scale peasant uprising as farmers suffering from famine stormed temples, merchant houses, and moneylenders, demanding debt cancellations. That same year, Yoshimochi died without naming a successor, leading to the unusual decision to draw lots to determine the next shogun, and Ashikaga Yoshinori became the sixth shogun. Nicknamed the Lottery Shogun, Yoshinori worked to restore the shogunate's prestige, restarting trade with Ming China. However, he ruled autocratically, executing those who opposed him, even going so far as to ban chickens from Kyoto after one delayed his procession. Fearing for their lives, powerful daimyo eventually conspired against him, and he was assassinated in 1441. When Yoshikatsu, the son of the seventh shogun Yoshinori, ascended to power, he died of illness just 8 months later. Amid the ensuing turmoil, his younger brother Yoshimasa became the eighth shogun. However, disillusioned by the shogunate's financial difficulties and frequent uprisings by peasants, he decided to retire in his 20s and named his younger brother Yoshimi as his successor. However, when Yoshimasa's son Yoshihisa was born, those around him began scheming to install Yoshihisa as the next shogun instead. Amid this political strife, Yoshimasa fostered a new cultural movement known as Higashiyama culture. The aesthetic tradition of Wabi-Sabi, which had existed since the Kamakura period, flourished during this time. A symbol of Wabi-Sabi is the Ginkaku, silver pavilion. While it is often compared to the Kinkaku, golden pavilion, built by Yoshimasa's grandfather Yoshimitsu, Ginkaku is far more modest in design, reflecting the Wabi-Sabi philosophy that finds beauty in imperfection and simplicity. The architectural style known as Shoin-zukuri, first adopted here, later became the foundation of traditional Japanese residential design. Other artistic traditions rooted in Zen philosophy also became defining features of Higashiyama culture. The practice of Wabi-cha, a refined form of the tea ceremony, ikebana, flower arrangement, and karisan-sui, dry landscape gardens that represent cosmic imagery with rocks and gravel, all flourished. Additionally, the practice of sending the sons of regional samurai to receive education was established, starting with Ashikaga School in what is now Tochigi Prefecture. Literacy and education spread beyond the samurai class, allowing merchant and commoner children, including girls, to enjoy the opportunity to develop reading and writing skills. Furthermore, Essential seasonings for Japanese cuisine, such as miso and soy sauce, were also developed during this period. Sengoku period and the end of the Muromachi Shogunate. In 1467, Japan plunged into the Onin War, a conflict over the shogunal succession, internal power struggles within the shogunate, and disputes among the Shugo daimyo intertwined and escalated into war. Although the war lasted for 11 years, by its later stages, it had become largely aimless, and even the people at the time no longer understood what they were fighting for. While it could be described as a meaningless war from a historical perspective, it was a major event that drastically transformed society and its institutions. The shogunate no longer had the power to rule the entire country, and powerful local figures began establishing their own autonomous domains. The traditional class system crumbled, and military might become the ultimate deciding factor in all matters. The idea of Gekkokujo, the overthrow of superiors by subordinates, became widespread, leading to instances where Shugo daimyo were overthrown by their own retainers, who then rose to power as Sengoku daimyo, warlords of the Warring States period. The Sengoku daimyo unified their samurai forces, built castles, and gathered retainers and merchants in the surrounding areas, establishing urban centers known as jokamachi, castle towns, with their own legal systems. Furthermore, farmers began banding together under the leadership of powerful samurai, forming uprisings, and some regions even became self-governing communities. In 1573, after years of internal power struggles, Oda Nobunaga expelled the 15th and final Ashikaga shogun, Ashikaga Yoshiaki, from Kyoto, bringing an end to the 240-year history of the Muromachi Shogunate.